Hello, and welcome to Super Lady Hero Hour here on FANVERSATION. I am your host, Yael Tygiel. I'm joined as always by my incredible co-host, the Lady Kay-B. Hello.
Hello. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's show. We're so excited.
You're so musical today.
I'm feeling musical after watching that film that I screened.
Yes.
So.
Makes sense. Before we talk about the last 5 episodes of season 1 of Doom Patrol, let's get into some news. I think this is the biggest news, but it's now feels a little bit old. But it is the biggest news. WandaVision.
The least shocking update. It's not coming out in 2020. Literally the least shocking.
I'm so annoyed. We were so looking forward, but it has been moved to January. Shock.
Yeah. I'm like, guys, I've 1000% said we're not seeing this in 2020. And here we are not seeing it in 2020.
I don't get it. If it's done, release it.
It's probably still in post, which makes sense. And, won't be done in time. And, we want some good ADR. So, we want post to go well. So we will just have to wait. But yeah, this is the least shocking news. I mean, I think it's more shocking for every single fan that we have had 0 first year in how many years that we've had 0 Marvel content come out from the MCU. So that's actually more shocking than this show not coming out in 2020 because, nothing is actually coming out in 2020. I just want people to be okay with that. We did get Tenet, but yeah. So.
Sure. Other non-shocking news, Umbrella Academy got a 3rd season on Netflix. This news came out and I went, oh, did we not know that already?
Maybe they're campaigning for me to watch. So I don't know. Maybe it's like, here's a season 3. Maybe Kay-B should finally watch season 1 and season 2 before season 3 come out. I'm 100% sure they haven't started filming because who has? So really season 3 will probably be out in 2022, realistically. So I have time to watch. I have all of 2021 because who knows what we're going to get content-wise then for real anyway. And I'll save it because when I run out of things to watch, I'll need something. So
I can't believe you. I'm going to say Umbrella Academy season 3 will come out December 2021. So you have 1 year.
1 year. Okay. That's giving them exactly 12 months to, figure out COVID, figure out filming, figure out storyline, and pop it out.
I'm sure they're already on it. Let's move on to other stuff. Peacemaker on HBO Max announced a slew of casting. They've added Danielle Brooks, whom I am a huge fan of from Orange is the New Black. She's amazing. They also added Robert Patrick, who many people know from Terminator or X-Files, or one of the best episodes of SVU Demons. Also, Jennifer Holland and Chris Conrad. I am less familiar with their work.
Yay! It's really interesting to me, though. I will say this. We're getting a ton of Peacemaker things for us to not have the Suicide Squad yet. And to literally not know anything about how this Peacemaker's character is going to play out in the Suicide Squad. So realistically, though, Peacemaker is likely not to come out until 2022, mostly because the Suicide Squad is not out yet. And so, we have to wait for that film to come out, which is slated August of 2021 for now. So I feel like we can, kind of rest our heads and know that we're probably not getting Peacemaker until 2022, just because logistically we have not even broken his story yet. We don't know anything about him from the DCEU perspective, I should say. So
all we do know is that the show on HBO Max is going to be the origins of Peacemaker. That's all we know. And Danielle Brooks' character is a Leota Adebayo. I don't know how to say that.
I think it's Adebayo. Yes.
And that's all they've explored or let us know about.
Listen, I am thrilled to see what happens. This also, because we know that Peacemaker is going to be an origin story, then I still stick by my statement, which I've said here a few times, that he's probably going to die in the film. He's probably going to be one of the casualties if we're getting an origin. So,
yeah, I kind of like the idea that I like the idea that we know where it's going and they're just going to fill in everything else. I think that's a great way to do it, rather than introduce him in the movie and then give him a story,
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's the Peacemaker news.
Hey.
Let's move on to Black Lightning.
Black Lightning was doing a lot this week.
My neighbors are doing construction right now.
You're like, well, Black Lightning was doing a lot this week. And one of my favorite people, Jordan Calloway, is getting his very own spinoff. So Painkiller's getting his own spinoff. I'm super thrilled for Jordan. Jordan's actually one of the kindest, most talented and hardworking people in this industry. Just a really great guy, comes from a really great family, also in the industry. And I am just super, super, super excited for him to get his own spinoff. And this is actually the very first spinoff that we're getting from this show. So, on the heels of the next season premiere, I do believe that they said episode 4, I think it's episode 4, correct, is going to be the backdoor pilot. Is it 4 or is it 7? Because both numbers are sticking out in my head and I can't recall. But I think it's episode 4 of this season will serve as the backdoor pilot for Painkiller.
I'm checking.
So I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to see kind of who they're going to tap as showrunner, because I do not necessarily think it will be Salim Akil. I think that they might go in a different direction for the showrunner for the Painkiller spinoff. But I'm curious to see what other doors this kind of opens for Milestone Comics specifically in this realm. And, if this means we can get Static Shock somewhere down the road on TV, an adaptation. So, yeah, I'm thrilled.
Unfortunately, I do not see which episode specifically it will be. Okay. But I'm super stoked because personally, I felt like Painkiller was an underutilized character in that he kept dying. He's dead. No, he's not. He's dead. No, he's not. And I was like, I personally thought that was kind of obnoxious. So give him a spinoff, give him a story, take him outside of this and move along with that. That's my opinion on it. But also, we have some amazing news that Grace is going to be a series regular this season, which is amazing because I have been waiting for her to be more than just the girlfriend. And so I'm very excited.
Well, I think she's going to be the wife. Maybe we'll get this wedding also because, maybe.
Yeah, but she'll get to be a fully formed character.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. More than that. But hopefully.
More than the love interest.
Yes. But hopefully also I'm still rooting for the love interest because I want this type of representation on TV and because we almost got it and then it didn't happen. And so it's like, no, let's get that stability. And then let's also see her, obviously outside of this partnership, let's see her fully flourish into the character that she was always meant to be. And let's get her more well-rounded, more active. On Team Lightning, let's just get a whole bunch of extra things.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this news. I think it's wonderful. And I know that I was reading a lot of fans who are familiar with her character and her backstory and her powers. We're really looking forward to getting to see her really explore all that.
Thrive. Yeah, I'm actually really excited as well. Yeah. So Black Lightning's making some really good choices, and I am just curious kind of what we're going to see with the other CW superhero shows in terms of spinoffs, what's next, how things are going. And also, actually, I did find it's the 7th episode because I kept saying the 4th episode, 7th episode, both numbers were in my head, but in the 7th episode of this season, that's going to be the backdoor pilot. So just to clarify. But
thank you.
Yes.
Moving along to talk about Thor.
In the least surprising news,
We've said that 3 times
really
now.
is least surprising. Chris Pratt's going to reprise his character in Thor. I mean, I guess that's. I feel like, it is casting news, but I mean, at this point in the MCU, we are used to other characters popping up and doing other things, and we already know that Thor is actually going to be in the next Guardians film as well. I mean, he's essentially a Guardian at this point, one of the Guardians at this point, I feel like, because he's going on this whole adventure with them as well. So it already made sense. So I kind of was like, okay. I mean, I expected it, sort of.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you go, wait, this wasn't already announced. It's like the Umbrella Academy. Wait, this wasn't already announced? Didn't we already know this? But
yeah.
I guess it was, we knew it, and now it's official.
Yeah, I mean, like, Star-Lord, pretty much is, in awe of Thor. Everyone actually, I guess, technically is in awe of Thor. They're all obsessed with him. And now he is, on their spaceship and traveling with them. So, yeah, I mean, I have nothing. Y'all give me script scoop. That's what I want. I want script scoop. Like, give me spoil it for me, quite honest. Leak the scripts. That's what I want. I mean, because I'm not a person who cares about spoilers. Like, they don't ruin the experience for me. So I'm like, give me that, but casting news nonetheless. So we can go right ahead and dive into Doom Patrol, but I do want to just remind anyone who is new to our show, Yael and I just request that you do not spoil it for us in the comments here or on social media in any capacity, because we are watching Doom Patrol for the very first time. And so now we are, just going to chat about the last 5 episodes of season 1. We made it. We're done with the first season. Whoo! And it was a doozy. I'm going to say this, though. I'm going to preface everything and just kind of say the last 5 episodes weren't as exciting for me as the first 10.
Yes.
I kind of just felt like, meh, so.
I totally agree. I felt like the last 5 were tying it all together. And usually I feel like that's the most exciting. But I would say that Francis Patrol was quite possibly like the least exciting episode. It was a lot of...
I always forget the title. Was that 11?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
It was the one that dealt the most with like emotion and character, which if you've seen me review anything, you know that stuff bores me. So like, dealing with Cliff and his daughter and Larry and his love, like, I was like, let's move it along, guys. You can have one of these in the story, but there needs to be something exciting happening. You can't all be dealing with this at the same time.
So for me, it just was that things were wrapped up, but it just, like, I don't know how to say this in a way that's nice. So I'm just going to say, I didn't care. Like, ultimately, the last 5 episodes, I didn't care about any of them, really, if I'm being honest. I mean, they're still wild. They're still outlandish. But, like, by the time, and we'll go through episode by episode, but by the time we got to the end and, we find out that Niles has a secret daughter named Dorothy, who's the most powerful being in the universe, I was like, okay, but who cares, though? Because I've never met Dorothy. Like, I mean, I truly was like, I haven't seen her. I don't know what she can do. Like, you kind of forced me to love this group of misfits for the first 10, and now you're bringing in Dorothy and we're supposed to care about Dorothy. And like, also, like, where's Dorothy's mom? Because really that's what I care about. I'm like, okay, like, you just introduced a new character, but I still don't. We found Niles. Okay, where is Niles's baby mama, who is truly, the most magical creature that we ever met? Like, where is she? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, but I have a daughter. And it's like, oh God, okay, whatever. Like, please just like bring me back to the Misfits and what's happening here. I mean, like, I feel like that's what I need. So
that's so funny. I agree. I think it was an odd decision. So let's start with Francis Patrol, episode 11. This is the emotion one.
You can't even say emotion. Like, you're like, this is the emotion one. Like, you're filled with disdain already. Yes.
It was a lot of like emotion.
It was a lot of Clara, which I'm glad Cliff at least got to put his eyes on Clara. Like, I know it's been really hard for him, you know, just kind of living in the shadows and keeping the secret that he's alive. And that still remains at the end of this episode. I mean, it's not like he reveals himself to Claire. He doesn't reveal who he is to her. Mm-hmm. But for me, I think it does provide him a sense of comfort in the sense that, like, okay, I can see that she's doing well. I can see that she's a well-adjusted human being. I can see that, like, even in the face of immense tragedy, because really she lost 3 parents. And I was like, my girl is on she is on the Meredith Grey train of being, you know, kind of the most just sad character of all time, because everything that could happen in the vein of trauma happens to you. But even in the face of losing her 3rd parent, you know, she still has some sort of joy, some sort of spark. Like, she's still a well-adjusted human, and I think you just need to see that. So I was fine with that. Larry finally comes to terms with the love of his life. He gets to tell him goodbye. He gets to admit that he was in love. He gets to come out, you know, okay, great. Really the only thing that happened in that episode was Vic getting captured by the Bureau of Normalcy and taken to the ant farm.
Yeah. I liked that.
I mean, that was the most important part, because then it kind of spurs, you know, like, oh, let's go back to the ant farm. And I'm like terrified. I mean, once they captured Vic, I was like, oh, what are they going to do with him to the ant farm? Because Larry is clearly still traumatized about what happened at the ant farm. So I'm like, oh no, what are they going to do to Vic at the ant farm? You know, I started to perk up, and then we got to episode 12 and I was like,
I agree. After that point, I was a little more interested. I think getting us what happens at the ant farm was interesting. I was the Flex thing, like the whole Flex story was a weird MacGuffin, right? Because like the whole thing, Chief was our MacGuffin. That's what we're looking for this whole time. And then all of a sudden, Danny
we're looking for Flex.
We're looking for Flex. But the way we get to Flex is through like no Flex. Flex is missing, so now we need Flex. And I was like, wait, I'm very confused as to how
Flex is the key. And it's like, is he the key? Right. And then it's like, he's missing from the comic book, so he has to be the key. And it's like, okay, I guess. And then Vic gets captured and he's with 722. And so the whole time you're just like, oh, he has this bond with 722. Like, cool, 722 this, 722 that, 722. Which honestly, I never even looked at 722's face, to be honest. So I wasn't even thinking that this person was Flex. And then,
I did, but then I was like, wait, how am I supposed to, we haven't met Flex. I don't know what he's supposed to look like.
Right, which is why I never even thought of it. But also, I didn't care about Flex. So I think a lot of it was I'm not leaning into these clues because I don't care.
Right. And then the idea, once, just to skip ahead real quick, once they have Flex and they go to Danny and he's like, I know where he is. You've known this whole time.
Danny's known the whole time. Yeah. And Danny was like, well, I was just really scared of Mr. Nobody. And it's like,
not a reason. Not a reason.
Everyone's scared of Mr. Nobody, though, technically. Like, I mean, no one is just like, Mr. Nobody's not a threat. It'll be okay. Everyone feels some sort of, level of fear about what he could do. So it's like, Danny, what?
Yeah. I will say once we met Flex, then I was interested in Flex.
I mean, it just took a while to get there. And so I really feel like the majority of episode 12 is them trying to break free Vic. So they're not actually they need Vic and they're trying to get Vic so that they can get to Flex, but most importantly, they need Vic. And so they're working with, Vic's dad. And I think all of the layers that happened with Vic and his father is interesting because, it's going to lead to a little bit more that we see kind of later on in 14 and 15. But yeah, I mean, that whole episode was literally just them running around the ant farm. And I was like, okay. So
I think it was, if the we're going to let you get captured, like, duh. The twist that, like, how could you do this? I was like, duh. They're obviously all in on it. That's the plan.
Yeah, that's how I felt about it.
Right. I do agree that Vic and his dad's situation, the fact that we get a reveal that his dad isn't doing all this to him, that it was Mr. Nobody messing with him. I liked that because
because remember, we also get the reveal that his dad is also still cannot be trusted. Like, right. It's like twofold. Like, oh, some of the blame is off of your father, but also he's still a terrible human being who still is complicit in a lot of things. But now you just know that he worked hand in hand with Niles versus, like, Niles is a completely separate entity from my father. Like, no, they were in on it together this whole time. So
interesting. I think that dynamic and that relationship is interesting. And I think that they should explore that more. I care less about Cliff and his daughter. So if we're going to do a parental relationship, let's stick with Vic and his dad. Anyway, we get the ant farm. I do like understanding this. I love a secret organization. I love this, like, history of what they do and how they do and why they're evil. Really great. And we also get, I believe this is the first time that Larry and the spirit are separated and can both survive. There's quotes on that because it seems to be very temporary, but they're both conscious at the same time.
Yes, I think this is the first time that we see kind of Larry and the spirit going their separate ways, but amicably and kind of doing their own thing. Their own thing. I mean, like, what does that mean? Yeah. I mean, mostly this episode is where it's all about Flex. Like, what can he do? We don't know. Let's give him a haircut. Let's put him back in his original outfit. Let's find Dolores because she's the key. Let's find his long lost wife. And that didn't go well.
Yeah, it felt almost like a filler episode. Like they were like, oh, we have to go back and explain a bunch of stuff. Our bad.
And I was like, do you though? Like, do we?
Like, when they're trying to help him remember, I was like, can we speed this along? Anyway, we're like almost done with the season. How could you waste this time? But that's fine. It was I think the last 5 episodes were just not consistently paced.
Yeah, and I also think that, like, I didn't enjoy the order. In a weird way. Like, I feel like it could have been ordered differently in a way that made more sense and would keep people engaged. I mean, we find Dolores, we see that Dolores, she, like, fades away or whatever that is. I don't even know. She, like, drifts away.
Like
disintegrates. And she, like, drifts away into the abyss, and that unleashes, then I think that it unlocks his, meta powers once more. So we finally are like, okay, well, now you'll be useful. Like, yay, let's unlock your powers. Now you'll be useful. Great. And then it's just like, okay, let's go to episode 14. So I just really feel like nothing was really happening, but yet these were still like an hour long. And I was confused because I was like, what's happening?
Yeah, I agree. And then let's talk about the white space once we're in there. This reveal that Niles is responsible. I think part of it is interesting. Part of it is not. Like it almost feels obvious at this point when like all of the twists have been obvious to be like, oh, wait, I guess wouldn't it be interesting if Niles did it? Oh, Niles did do it. He is responsible. But as you point out, that we finally talk about the immortality.
Finally,
a question we had forever
from day one, because literally everyone, like Larry is 95 years old. The love of his life just died because he's 95 years old, and that's what happens when you're 95. And Larry's like, oh yeah, I'll pick you up. And it's like, we are the same age. Like, I don't understand why we are the same age, and yet you can lift him and nothing has changed, and you have the physique of a 35-year-old. Like, please tell us more. And even though we kind of got the immortality, we still didn't. Like, I still don't know why they're immortal. I just know why Niles wants to keep them. Like, I know Niles' motive. It's still one of those things where it's like, I know more about Niles, but I still don't know more about anyone else. Just Niles.
Yeah, no, totally. It's interesting. Yeah. The whole thing is, I feel like we're still missing an episode. Like there's supposed to be something else that goes, let me clarify. And there isn't. We move on to season 2.
Or it's like they cut something and we didn't know. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they dropped a lot off and they were like, we just don't have time to cover this. So we're just going to cut this. But then it was like, no, please don't cut that, because I still don't understand. That was the feeling I had. I still was like, I truly don't understand what's happening.
So
or why.
Let's try to figure this out together as best we can. If I understood correctly, Niles gave Rita immortality. He was like testing how to do it, gave it to Rita.
Is it the opioid serum? Is it the serum? Like what is it? Because remember, there's also the serum that he created. Remember when Jane was like, I need these voices to stop. Like, I need all this to stop. No one understands what's happening. And then, he said, this is like an opioid for metahumans. I'm going to give this serum to you, but it's going to stop everything. It's going to silence everything. You will not be able to hear anything. And she goes kind of off into this field with like young Jane. So I'm like, is the serum that she got like in part the immortality serum? Like, are they connected? Or like, I just don't know anything. So I'm kind of like,
right. That I don't know. Okay. So then we have an immortal Rita.
Right, who is like struggling.
And then they tell the agency, the secret government organization, normalcy.
They need more test subjects. Yes, the Bureau.
They decide also Larry. So then they make Larry immortal. And then from there, the rest, like that accident and all the rest of them, are all Niles doing. Okay. Am I correct? Is that what I got?
Yes. I mean, you are correct in the sense that yes. And then the Bureau, well, I don't know if that was the Bureau, if that was the League of Evil, the Brotherhood of Evil. I can't remember if it was the Brotherhood of Evil or the Bureau. But anyway, someone then brought Niles Jane. And they said, you requested, a test subject with multiple personalities. So we brought you Jane.
Yeah.
And I just know that Jane is the last subject, because we already know that Cyborg's, like Vic's dad brought Vic to Niles. So we already know. And also the fact that like his mom was already working with Niles anyway. So we know how he got there. But also here's the weird thing that I just thought about. Does Vic actually even need immortality though? Because he's a robot. Like the robots don't, I guess I just kind of feel like the robots don't actually need immortality, because one, like Cliff's brain is just in this machinery. So that can last forever by itself. And then Vic is still young, you know, like the human side that you see is still young. But like, wouldn't that have happened anyway because he's a robot? Like, I kind of feel like.
Well, I'm assuming that Cliff and Vic do not have immortality. That said, I think that Cliff's brains do deteriorate. And
Of course. Like, he's going to get older.
Right.
And well, I actually don't know how this is going to work because, again, you could remember, because he's a robot that's controlled by a computer, he could just get a virus and that take him out. Like a computer virus will take him out versus his brain deteriorating. So I don't know which one.
Whatever happens first. And then also Vic, I feel like his human side will eventually get old and probably stop working and just be dragged around by the robot side.
Yeah, like that's what I was going to say. That's why I don't think he has immortality, is because I think that you know, when they implanted whatever robotic parts that they did, it automatically stopped human growth. So I just feel like I actually don't think he's going to get older because I think like the two kind of counteract each other. So now that he's a robot, it stopped kind of all human function in that regard. And so now, you know, kind of the robotics have taken over is my thought process. But either way, I mean, who knows? Because also they don't tell you. So here we are.
So in our finale, we have a giant cockroach and a giant Whiskers. So we have Ezekiel and Whiskers.
Ezekiel, Whiskers, and they're in a relationship.
Honestly, that was the most fun part of the whole thing, was this weird bananasness
love affair that they just randomly had when Ezekiel just looked at him and saw Whiskers in a new light. Like, what? Yeah, I was like, what is happening?
That I think was one of the only parts I loved about it, being like, this is weird, I'm in. And like their escape, like, so clever. Yep. All right, let's move along.
That was it, guys.
That was it. Yep. All right. Let's talk about ratings here on Super Lady Hero Hour. We like to rate things on a scale of poop to kittens and anything in between. Kay-B, do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
I'll start. I'm giving this a handkerchief.
A what?
A handkerchief.
I don't have energy for that, but okay.
It was not all the way poop for me. But I'm just it's right on the cusp because I definitely did not like these last 5 episodes. And I didn't hate them, but I didn't think that they didn't do anything for me. Like, I was like, oh, okay. Again, I was more excited about the first 10. And, again, it's been a slow start for me to even kind of build up to the show in terms of like me liking it. And so once I was invested. And then I just felt like 11 through 15 were also just like very much a downer for me in a lot of ways. Cause I was like, oh, okay. But so I'm going to give it a handkerchief. Like, maybe that handkerchief is for tears. Maybe it's for, wiping your bottom. I don't know.
For picking up poop.
I don't know what it's for. I just decided right now that I wanted to be a handkerchief. And so that's what I'm going with. Yeah, I just, again, didn't hate it, but I definitely did not love it. And I didn't even really like it. I just was like, meh. And so maybe that's what the handkerchief is for. It's just meh. We'll see.
Right. That's a perfect analogy. I'm going to give it an oyster. Because I don't particularly like oysters. But I do like seafood. So I think that's a great analogy for this. I like the show. I did not particularly like these episodes.
I don't like oysters, but I like seafood. I actually like that you said that because I was like,
great metaphor.
And yes. So, okay. So what was your top WTF moment of this week's watch?
My WTF moment was the butts. I think the butts was
And
definitely it.
they somehow had arms in them too. It was so interesting.
Yeah, it was arms, legs on a butt, which is very confusing. And then the butts opened like a mouth, which was also weird because that's not how butts work. So
Well, it was funny because they reminded me of the Venus flytraps. Like I was like,
yeah. They definitely were my WTF moment.
So yes, that is one. I will say, another one for me was that cat eating and lasering flex. Like I was confused about how simultaneously, he was being lasered and eaten. I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And it was just like a regular house cat, that just, did this. And I was like, And then honorable mention for me, is going to go to the collective orgasm that happened on Danny Street when Flex flexed the wrong muscle. That was interesting. And then, of course, the sexual tension between Ezekiel and Whiskers also deserves, because they were in a giant state, and I really felt like I was watching Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And then it turned sexual. And it was odd, and I still don't understand it, and I definitely did not like it. So
I have to give a shout out to Curtis Armstrong, who voiced Ezekiel. It was just perfect and wonderful.
I was like, what is happening in this wild, wild life? So now that we are done with season 1, which big sigh of relief for me, we are going to season 2. So what are your predictions for season 2?
Genuinely, no idea. No predictions. No idea. The way it ended was, and like, I don't know. There's no way to predict more bananas stuff. I mean, what's a rodent and a cockroach getting together, butts, a collective orgasm. Like, how do you predict season 2 when that was the last episodes of season 1?
Yeah. So I do have a couple of predictions.
Okay.
First off, something that we failed to mention is that Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz is his daughter. So we failed to mention that. Her name is Dorothy, and she is dressed like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. So I have just assumed that this is the Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz because the show is so bananas anyway. And she was legitimately dressed like Judy Garland going on the yellow brick road. So, and her name is Dorothy. So I've decided that Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz is Niles's daughter, aka the most powerful person in the world. Right now, she is about 2 centimeters tall because everyone is still very small.
Right.
And my prediction is that we're going to finally find out more about Dorothy and what her meta human power is, like what she's capable of. Because they spent all of this time in these last 2 episodes, 14 and 15, trying to, figure out Dorothy and find Dorothy, which we didn't care about before. So I guess we're going to have to care about in season 2 is my prediction, is that she's going to play a larger role. Hopefully in season 2, we find out what happened to Dorothy's mother, because I'm actually still, again, more interested in that. Yeah. And mostly because we got a full episode with her. So I want to see that storyline wrapped up in a succinct manner. And actually in season 2, my prediction for the people that I care about the most, the actual Doom Patrol, or the Doom Patrol 2.0, I should say.
Yeah.
I predict that they will be fighting crime by choice, because of course what we saw in season 1 is that they were a ragtag group of people who were constantly fighting not only each other, but fighting against, being superheroes and fighting crime and doing what's right in the world. And so a lot of the adventures in season 1 really just focus on them trying to find each other, trying to save each other from these precarious situations. So now I'm hoping that in season 2, they will actually become the superheroes that they are destined to be, in the sense that they will start to collectively fight evil and other crime, like as a whole that impacts more people.
I think you make a great point. In the time loop thing that they were in, they were a team of crime fighters. They were the Doom Patrol. So I think you bring up a great point that they will be in season 2. I also think Dorothy definitely will play a part. I guess I'll predict that she joins the team.
Maybe she'll have to come along too.
Yeah.
The show's so wild that maybe Toto will actually also be a superhero that comes. When I saw the outfit, I was like, so she's Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz? I was like, what? Like, okay. And because they only showed the back of her head with the iconic pigtails and then the blue and white dress. And I was like, so she's Dorothy? Like, oh, okay.
Sure. I did like that the Beard Hunter and Danny and and Whiskers and Ezekiel all came back together to be part of the end. So I hope that season 2 doesn't just start us fresh. I hope that whatever season 1 randos continue. Like I hope we see Flex again. I hope we see Danny again. I hope that season 2 gives us more continuity that continues.
Well, we already see that Mr. Nobody and the Beard Hunter are trapped in that painting. So I definitely predict that they will get out of there. Like something else is going to happen in that painting. I mean, unless we set this painting on fire, like.
Which would kill Danny.
Right. Which they don't want to do. But maybe it's necessary at this point because Danny was really not. I mean, Danny out here. Oh yeah, I've known the whole time. Okay, Danny, maybe it's time for you, to get on up out of here too because you should have told us in the beginning. Like, Danny, we're running around chasing our tail, and you knew this whole time. No, so I don't know. Danny, maybe we need some, repercussions for these actions, Danny, because come on. But I guess I should say Danny was still keeping, Wizard Dorothy safe. So, maybe that's the redemption, even though they were chasing their tails for like a solid 5 episodes.
That's true. All right. Let's move along to Woman Performer of the Week. We both have the same vote this time, but I think for different reasons. So why don't you begin?
Yes. So I think that this week it belonged to Rita. And for me, it was just because in every single episode, Rita stepped up like a leader. Every single episode. So, even though we started in episode 11 with Cliff, she voluntarily went with Cliff to, kind of figure out that relationship, that new dynamic with his daughter once her third parent Bump had passed away. Mm-hmm. And so, she encouraged him. She went with him. She was really pushing him to kind of speak his mind and his feelings when it came to Vic. Obviously, in the week before with the Beard Hunter, Vic was able to confide in her about the things going on with him on the robotic kind of computer tech side. And she really stuck up for him, especially when his father came. This week. And she really was like, we can't trust you. And I'm here for Vic. And she really just showed her allegiance, honestly, to every single team member. She really worked exceptionally well with all of them. And yeah, she really held her ground. So for me, she was just truly the lead this week. Really trying to see people through. And I was like, okay, Rita, take the reins. Like, go ahead, girl. Because 98% of the time, I don't understand your power or what it's going to do for us that's beneficial. But I mean, she didn't even need her powers to be the leader. Like, she really just stepped it up just as Rita. Well, I'm sorry, as Gertrude, because she wants to be called by her birth name. So, Gertrude's back.
I agree. I think that what really struck me about Rita these episodes is that she stepped up to be there for her friends. She was putting all of her personal feelings and pettiness and selfishness aside to be the support, to be the rock they could lean on, to be the ear to listen to. I think that was what really sold her for me this week. Like you said, she was there to be, to help Cliff see his daughter. She was in the hospital with Vic, She really stepped up, and that I think is what earned her both of us agreeing that she's the performer of the week.
I know this will likely never happen again. We'll have the same person every week.
Yeah, because we also agree on the style icon of the week, which was
Flex. It has to go to Flex. I mean, first off, that cheetah prints, that animal print Spanx, whatever that was like, what is this? It's so wild, but it makes sense with his superpower. And I remember starting the episode, I don't remember which one this was. Was it 13? Whichever, the first episode that we were like introduced to Flex, literally him and his wife having a picnic at the park. I remember thinking, this man is the only man in public who is half naked. Like, he is shirtless in these Spanx, and the little warmers around his whatever those are, his arm, and nobody was even looking at him. And then he is literally flexing wine out of his behind, which probably is true. I don't know, because you can't really tell what he's flexing. Just things appear. So like flowers are appearing, wine's appearing, cheese is appearing, and I was like, what is this? And the fact that post prison, post being number 722, because obviously he was in a prisoner style jumpsuit, he gets back to his self, and he gets back to his spandex, which I'm also still confused about where they got it from. Like, also, what? Like, they gave him a haircut, and the next thing you know, he is wearing these Spanx again. And
he flexed them out of his butt.
Probably, yes, because that is what he does with everything. So I thought this outfit is outrageous. But also amazing, and also just reminded me of like a pro wrestler suit. Like, I immediately thought about The Rock, which I never even really watched pro wrestling, but I've seen like a little bit. And during The Rock's era, I was like, oh, he reminds me of The Rock. And so, yeah. No,
I agree completely. 100%. I was like, this is the icon. This is the style of the week. I love it.
There's no one else. No one else is doing it like Flex this week. No one. Like, no one is stopping this, hands down. The only thing that like, and I should have said, I'm sorry, I forgot. Rita's also the woman of the week because she ate all that chicken. That man thought that he was going to share a bucket of chicken, and Rita ate the whole thing. And I was like, yes, like, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. It has been a blast checking out the first season of Doom Patrol with you. I cannot wait to continue with season 2. We'll be doing again 5 episodes, I believe, because it's a shorter season. So excited, so stoked. But until then, Kay-B, where can everyone keep up with you, and what are you up to this week?
Just find me on Twitter and Instagram at the Lady Kay-B. It is here, but TheLadyKayB. That is where I am on social media, and you can subscribe and follow my YouTube channel through the lens of Lady Kay-B, where I post interviews, talent interviews, film reviews, and things that I am just up to. So what about you, Yael? What's happening this week? What are you playing on Twitch?
So I am getting ready for some holiday content on Twitch. I will be playing on my Super Nintendo a very excited holiday game. I'm actually really stoked. I'm not going to say anything else, but come watch. If you enjoy watching people be bad at video games, then come check me out on Twitch. It's Yael Tygiel. That's YAELTYGIEL. You can also find me on social, everything at Yael Tygiel. And if you like Law and Order Special Victims Unit, because who doesn't? It is on this channel on FANVERSATION.com and FANVERSATION's YouTube. You can check out Law and Order S Review, where we discuss every episode of SVU. We are also now available in podcast format everywhere you listen to podcasts. So check that out, Law and Order S Review. And we'll be back next week for more Superhero Lady Hour and Doom Patrol. Everything. More of everything. We'll see you next time, everybody.